Here's a dose of reality for you. Just as sure as weddings and by extension marriages take place on any given weekend, the number of divorces are also. And just because your marriage may not be going well doesn't signal the road to divorce. According to attorney Hope Strachan, a couple can file for a legal separation and use the time to think things through.
A legal separation is an edict from the court which you seek, which says that you and your spouse are no longer bound to live together. It basically means that you're having problems within the marriage. Things are not working out, and perhaps you are not at the stage where you believe that the marriage is totally over. Perhaps it provides, a lot of people see it as providing a cooling off period, so to speak, where the couple says, okay, let's see, if we separate, we can deal with our issues. If we're not living together, we may be able to deal with our issues and reconcile in some way.
With a legal separation, you'd also be able to take care of what the court calls ancillaries.
You will be able to deal with things like custody of the children. You would be able to get a court to actually deal with maintenance for yourself and for the children under a legal separation order. The one thing that the court will not be able to deal with under the legal separation order is if you needed what they call property adjustment.
So how does a legal separation differ from a divorce?
A divorce is a final dissolution of your marriage. It means that the marriage comes to an end. You and that person are no longer husband and wife. And the only common issues between the two of you would be if you have children together. Now, the divorce is, like I say, a finalization and an absolute of the end of your marriage. It requires a little bit more in terms of filing a petition, and it has to be done through the Supreme Court.
The common thread between the two, the grounds on which you can file your application.
Adultery. And so you as the applicant would have to make an allegation of adultery against your spouse. Cruelty. You as the applicant would have to make an allegation of cruelty against your spouse. Or you can say that your spouse has deserted you. And desertion, it means that the party, either one has physically left you, or it can mean that they have constructively left you. And constructively leaving a person means that even though we are residing within the same home, we are living separate lives. And so I'm living in one bedroom, and you're living in the next. I'm cooking my meals, you're cooking your meals. All right, I'm doing my washing, you're doing your washing. We have separate bank accounts. We're no longer doing anything together. All right, and so this constructive desertion has to be in place, and that has to have been subsisting for 2 years before you can actually file for desertion. And then there's the ground of 5 years living separate and apart. And that means that we've separated, we've gone our separate ways, and we've been like that for 5 years without coming back together to cohabit. And once that 5 years is up, then the party who actually left the home, who was left, I should say, let's say one party walks out, stays away for 5 years, then the party who was left there can actually file and say, well, okay, he left me or she left me, and they've been gone for 5 years. And so then you can get the legal separation for that as well.
And according to Mrs. Strachan, the length of time for a divorce depends on the circumstances of each case.
The time will depend on the circumstances of each particular case, because it depends on whether or not you have an uncontested divorce, whether you have a contested divorce. An uncontested divorce means that after the petition is served on the other party may have reached the conclusion that the marriage is at an end. And so while they may have issues with things that are in the petition, because they feel that the marriage is at an end, they will say, well, okay, I'm going to just allow the other party to go ahead and get their divorce. Because contested divorces mean that you have to actually present evidence from both parties and then witnesses as well. You're right. Whereas with an uncontested divorce, usually it is just the petitioner or the respondent who is actually going to go into the witness box, give their evidence of whatever marital offense that they have actually filed on, and the court then makes a conclusion as to whether the petition will be granted or not.
Now, next week, we will look at an important feature of legal separations and divorces, children and maintenance. So until then, I'm Sasha Lightborn, and now you know you're right.